Welt Yang, the strongest of the Trailblazers and our first ever crossover character, solidifying the bond between Honkai Impact 3rd and Honkai Star Rail, which shows us that the universe is just another branch of the Honkai imaginary tree that Hoyo decided to make abundantly clear by making Welt an imaginary character. But despite being imaginary, he is nothing but the truth. In this series, I explain the in-game paths of Honkai Star Rail characters, describing their faction affiliation as a path and their in-game path as a type, proving that the type reflects a significant aspect of their life. Because I don't believe that characters are assigned paths willy-nilly, nor do I believe that characters like Black Swan are nihility purely because the remembrance didn't exist, because it does now. And it is for that reason that I say that Hoyo does not do things for no reason. And ever since I started this series explaining the in-game paths of Honkai Star Rail characters, someone has always been in the comment section asking me why Mr. Yang is nihility. And today, I will answer that question. Because this is Honkai Star Rail in-game paths explained. First things first, in order to explain why he is a nihility character, we've got to look into his past. So let's get into the strongest of the Trailblazers, the black hole wielding Hersher of Reason and Dawei XP, the sovereign of anti-entropy, Welt Yang. Okay, so it's actually very simple. Welt uses a black hole as a weapon and the Aeon of Nihility IX is a black hole. Done and dusted, but what do you guys think? Be sure to let me know. Yeah, right, it's that simple. Y'all already know that I do not do things the easy way on this channel. So for real this time. The truth is that Welt Yang's name isn't even really Welt Yang. This is the name he inherited from his friend, Welt Joyce. Stay with me here, this is gonna get a bit complicated, so before I start throwing around words, I want to explain that the Honkai is like an Aeon and the Hershers are like Honkai's emanators. And each Hersher has a Hersher core that contains their power. Good? Good. Okay, so Welt's real name is Joachim Nokia Vertanen. Welt Joyce is the first Hersher of Reason. But unlike the many Hersher that followed, he didn't possess the natural urge to destroy humanity. Because, you see, when a Hersher awakens, they are pretty malleable, and as the Hersher core took shape, it absorbed the souls and memories of countless people who fell to the Honkai. So he began hearing the people cry out for a savior as he sees their peril and demise replayed vividly in his head. And instead of becoming the apocalyptic threat that most Hersher end up being, he sided with the voices in his head and decided to be this hero they cried out for. And he was enjoying his life alongside the scientists Joachim, Tesla, and Einstein, until he was tragically killed by Otto Apocalypse in an attempt to save Joachim, who Otto was originally trying to kill. So in his final moments, Welt Joyce gave his Hersher core to Joachim, and Joachim changed his name to Welt Yang in order to honor his true friend that saved his life. He also inherited the Star of Eden that he now uses as a cane. And yes, even though it's looked like many different things, it has always had the ability to control gravity. And this is how Welt Yang became the second first Hersher of Reason. The Hersher of Reason's special ability is to pretty much create things out of thin air as long as the user knows how to create it. And this is why the Hersher core collects memories, because the more it knows, the more it can make. And this ability combined with gravity manipulation is a huge threat. It's just unfortunate that after taking on the mantle of Hersher of Reason, Welt found himself fighting against the second Hersher, Sirin, the Hersher of the Void. And despite looking like a harmless little magical girl, she was a menace, because she also controlled a dragon known as Benares. And both of them wanted all the smoke, and hated humanity with a burning passion. So Welt faced off with Sirin in a huge legendary battle, and Welt had Sirin backed into a corner, managing to trap her with his Star of Eden, and was in savage fashion pulling the Hersher of the Void into the Void. But as Sirin was about to
gravitational disintegration,
Otto showed up and ruined everything, catching Welt off guard and allowing Sirin to escape. Their next battle took place on the moon, and Sirin decided to launch meteors at the Earth mid-fight, forcing Welt to focus on saving the planet, which allowed her to defeat him in another unfair fight. But unlike Sirin, Welt was not able to escape and had the Herrscher core ripped from his body and consumed by Sirin. And this is where Welt Yang died. But he lived, because he found a way to download his consciousness into the Herrscher core and also found a way to escape it once she destroyed it later, uploading himself into a super weapon he then used to overload Sirin's Herrscher core, and she nearly died. But she would later return in a different body, and this is the even more terrifying version that ended up killing Himiko. And who decided to give this demon a third chance at life? None other than the man named Apocalypse. Long story short, Welt recreates the Herrscher core of reason and ends up giving it to Bronya, and served as her mentor for a few years, which allowed her to aid significantly in beating back the Honkai for the foreseeable future. And as for Otto, he eventually left the world to create a new one and died. Then came along his favorite sentient weapon, Void Archives, that now shares his likeness and is the single reason why Luocha's existence bothers Welt. Because Welt for some reason went on a journey with Void Archives into space, went through a portal, and is now in Honkai Star Rail. Bro literally got isekai'd by space.
But Nova, how does this explain why Welt is nihility?
Well, it's complicated, because when you look at Welt's life, he has never truly won a fight, despite how strong he was. Welt never defeated Otto, and Sirin never truly lost to him. She was defeated by Himiko and Kiana. She even re-emerged through Kiana to take Himiko, who Welt was also very close with. Welt once served as Himiko's professor and mentor, similar to Bronya, by the way. Can you imagine how it feels looking at Himiko and Luocha? People who directly remind him of his failures each and every time he sees them, unendingly plaguing him with the cold reality that he wasn't able to save the people he cared about, despite having godlike powers, which is why he has peace with leaving that world behind. And he is in no rush to go back, because if everything he did was for naught, then he won't be missed too much. This is why he is so driven to save people in Honkai Star Rail. The first time we see him, he saves the Trailblazer. He even goes out of his way to help people like Sunday of all people. Why? Because in this new world, he is the strongest, and he can save people. And he can finally save who he cares about, and can make sure his actions finally matter, which ends up being very similar to Kafka and Jiaoqiu. In the end, they just want what they do to mean something in the grand scheme of things. Welt is nihility because it is his past. The concept of naught is woven into every single loss he took. He even had to fake his own death just to survive. The whole reason why he has his power isn't because of some grand scheme. It was merely because he was the only one there when Welt Joyce passed. He believed he didn't matter to such an extent that he changed his name and became Welt Yang, abandoning his actual name. Nihility and naught is tied into the very framework of his character, but he still manages to find a way to fight it for himself and for those he cares about. And that is why Welt Yang is nihility. Wow, that was a journey. Welt so far has been one of my favorite characters so far in the story, and I am looking forward to what they do with him. Personally, I want him to teach Acheron how to better control her powers, since she's kinda deteriorating right now. And since Herrschers and Emanators really go hand in hand, I think he could really help her out a lot. I'm also still convinced that Aeons are the Honkai or have something to do with it. I mean, they gotta be, right? Akavili's Astral Express, Akavili the Aeon that made the Star Rail, the Aeons are the Honkai, Honkai Star Rail. I mean, the Honkai made an impact, but we don't know if the Genshin ever did. And the Honkai has yet to Star Rail, but at least Zone Zero is definitely Zenless. But what do you guys think? Be sure to let me know, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace, y'all.